The Veltharan coalition had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years, 4 ancient species working together, each one older than human civilization itself. The Kethmori, with their crystal-like bodies that lived for millennia. The Zultaran, massive beings who could survive in the vacuum of space. The nimble Velnash, who moved faster than human eyes could follow. And the mysterious Korthek, masters of technology that seemed like magic. They had watched Earth's children spread across the stars like wildfire. In just 200 years, humans had gone from one small blue planet to colonies on 47 worlds. This worried the coalition deeply. Humans didn't follow the rules. They didn't ask permission. They just expanded. These creatures are dangerous, High Counselor Morteth of the Kethmori had declared during their last meeting. They adapt too quickly. They learn too fast. They will upset the balance we have maintained for millennia. The other council members agreed. Something had to be done about the human problem. Meanwhile, 3 sectors away, Commander Hyunwoo Park was having his morning coffee on the bridge of the UCS Defiance. The ship hummed quietly through hyperspace, conducting routine patrol along the Outer Rim territories. Hyunwoo had been in space for 15 years, ever since graduating from the Seoul Military Academy. He'd seen pirates, smugglers, and the occasional alien trader, but nothing that kept him awake at night. That changed when the distress signal appeared. Lieutenant Soo-Jin Kim was the first to detect it. Fresh out of Lunar Academy, she had the sharp instincts of someone who'd studied every recorded alien encounter in human history. Her fingers flew across the holographic display as she isolated the signal. "Commander, we're receiving a distress beacon from the Arcturus Nebula," she reported, her voice tight with concern. "The transmission is weak and breaking up, but I'm reading human life signs." Hyunwoo set down his coffee and moved to her station. The tactical display showed a 3-dimensional map of nearby space, with the distress signal pulsing like a red heartbeat in the swirling gases of the nebula. "Let me hear it," he said. The bridge speakers crackled to life with static. Then a desperate voice broke through. "This is Dr. Park Jin-woo of the research vessel Discovery. Engines dead, life support failing, crew of 37. Please." "Respondes, we have revolutionary technology aboard. Don't let it fall into wrong hands." The message repeated, growing weaker each time. Dr. Min-ho Lee, the ship's chief xenobiologist, looked up from his research station. A quiet man in his 40s, he'd joined the colonial fleet after discovering 3 new forms of alien plant life on Kepler 438b. "Commander, I'm detecting technology signatures unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns are extraordinary." "How extraordinary?" Hyunwoo asked. Min-ho adjusted his glasses, studying the readouts. "If this is genuine, sir, we could be looking at a breakthrough in faster-than-light physics, maybe even instantaneous travel between star systems. This could change everything for humanity." Soo-Jin frowned at her display. "Sir, something feels wrong about this. The Discovery isn't listed in any fleet registry. I've checked twice. Could be a black project," suggested Chief Engineer Dong Hyun-yoon from his station. The gruff engineer had worked on classified military research before joining the Defiance. "Top secret stuff. Government doesn't always tell us everything." Hyunwoo studied the tactical display. The Arcturus Nebula was known for its dangerous radiation and unpredictable plasma storms. Ships avoided it unless absolutely necessary. But if there really were 37 people trapped in there, "It could be a trap, sir," Soo-Jin said quietly. "Pirates sometimes use fake distress calls to lure merchant ships into ambushes." The commander nodded slowly. In his 15 years of service, he'd learned to trust his officers' instincts. Soo-Jin was young, but she was smart. If she sensed danger, there probably was danger. But then he thought about 37 people floating helpless in space, their life support running out, waiting for rescue that might never come. He thought about the families who would never see their loved ones again if the Defiance turned away. "You're right, Lieutenant. It could be a trap," he said. "Everything out. Here could be a trap. But we don't abandon people who need help. That's what makes us human." He turned to address his crew of 180 souls scattered across 5 decks. Scientists studying alien artifacts, engineers keeping the ship running, Marines ready to fight whatever dangers they might face. All of them looking to him for leadership. Set. "Course for the Arcturus Nebula," he ordered. "Maximum speed." As the Defiance changed direction and accelerated toward the distant nebula, none of them knew they were flying straight into the most carefully planned ambush in galactic history. The Veltharan Coalition had spent months preparing this trap, using advanced technology to fake human life signs and create fake distress signals. They were counting on humanity's greatest weakness, their unwillingness to abandon others in need. Soon, the Coalition believed there would be one less human ship in their perfectly ordered galaxy. The Arcturus Nebula stretched before them like a massive wall of purple and gold gas clouds, lightning crackling between cosmic dust particles the size of asteroids. Commander Hyunwoo Park had seen plenty of nebulas during his career, but this one felt different. It felt alive, almost breathing as currents of superheated plasma swirled in endless patterns. "Dropping from hyperspace in 30 seconds, announced Navigator Jong-Soo Han from his station. The young officer's hands moved smoothly across the controls, preparing the Defiance for normal space operations. "All stations, prepare for possible rescue operations," Hyunwoo commanded over the ship's intercom. "Medical teams to standby positions. Engineering, I want full power to shields and sensors." Dr. Min-Ho Lee peered at his xenobiology console, watching as they approached the coordinates of the distress signal. "Still reading those unusual energy signatures, Commander. Whatever technology they have over there, it's unlike anything we've ever encountered." Lieutenant Soo-Jin Kim kept her eyes glued to the tactical display, searching for any sign of the stranded research vessel. Her finger hovered over the weapons control, ready to activate defensive systems at the first hint of trouble. The Defiance shuddered slightly as it dropped out of hyperspace, and reality reasserted itself around them. For a moment, everything seemed normal. The nebula's gases swirled peacefully around them, lit by distant stars. Then the trap revealed itself. "Holy," Jong-Soo whispered, his face going pale as his sensors registered what lay ahead, where they expected to find one damaged research ship. 67 massive alien vessels emerged from the nebula's concealing gases, like predators stepping out of tall grass. Each ship was different, reflecting the 4 species of the Veltharan Coalition, crystal-like vessels that looked like floating cathedrals, dark, angular warships bristling with weapons, sleek fighters that moved like living creatures, and enormous dreadnoughts that seemed to bend space around them. They were arranged in a perfect sphere around empty space, with the Defiance now trapped in the center. "Energy barriers activating around us," shouted Chief Engineer Dong-Hyun Yoon from the engine room. "We're boxed in, Commander." Captain Bo-Ram Choi, Hyun-Woo's second-in-command, was already analyzing the tactical situation. A veteran of the Centauri border wars, she had a gift for instantly assessing combat scenarios. What she saw made her blood run cold. "Sir, their smallest ship outguns us 3-1, she reported in a steady voice that didn't reveal her inner alarm. "We're looking at enough firepower to glass an entire continent, maybe a small moon." The alien ships hung motionless in space, like enormous spiders waiting for their prey to struggle. No movement, no threatening gestures, just the quiet menace of overwhelming force. Then came the transmission. "Unknown human vessel," a voice spoke in perfect Korean, so flawless it could have been from Seoul itself. "You have entered Veltharan. Space without permission. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Submit now or be destroyed." The voice was cold, mechanical, yet somehow amused, as if this entire situation was nothing more than an entertaining game to whoever was speaking. Hyunwoo felt the eyes of his crew upon him. 180 people looking to him for leadership in what might be their final moments. He thought of their families back on Earth, on Mars, on the colony worlds. People who would never know what happened to the Defiance if they disappeared here in this godforsaken nebula. He activated the communications array. "This is Commander Hyunwoo Park of the United Colonial Ship Defiance. We responded to a distress call from the research vessel Discovery. If you're responsible for the stranded civilians, we demand their immediate release under the Galactic rescue protocols." The response came immediately, and it was the last thing any human on the bridge expected to hear. Laughter. Cold, calculating laughter that seemed to come from multiple voices speaking in unison. The sound echoed through the bridge speakers and chilled every human soul who heard it. It was the laughter of predators who had just realized their prey had walked willingly into the trap. "There are no stranded civilians, human," the voice replied, with obvious amusement. "There never were, only bait and prey." Dr. Min-Ho Lee stared at his readings in horror. "Commander, the energy signatures I was detecting, they're not from some revolutionary technology. They're from the Coalition ships themselves. They were broadcasting false readings to make us think there was advanced human tech here." Sujin Kim's tactical board lit up like a Christmas tree as the alien ships began powering up their weapons systems. Dozens of targeting lasers painted the Defiance's hull in deadly red light. "They used our own rescue instincts against us," she whispered. "They knew we'd never abandon people in distress." The alien voice spoke again, and this time there was no pretense of diplomacy. "Humanity has expanded too far, too fast. You disturbed the order we have maintained for millennia. This ends now. Power down your engines and surrender your ship. Your crew will be relocated to serve the Coalition. Resist, and you will all die in the next 60 seconds. Around them, the massive alien fleet began to move, tightening the sphere like a closing fist. Weapon ports opened on every ship, revealing energy cannons that could vaporize the Defiance in seconds. Bo-Ram Choi looked at the tactical display and shook her head grimly. "Commander, we can't fight our way out of this. There are too many of them." But Hyunwoo wasn't looking at the overwhelming odds. He was looking at his crew, at Sujin Kim, barely 25 years old, who'd joined the fleet to explore the stars. At Dr. Min-Ho Lee, who'd left his comfortable research position to study alien life. At all the brave souls who'd chosen to venture into the unknown to help their fellow humans. They'd walked into a trap, yes, but they were still alive, and as long as humans were alive, they were dangerous. The Coalition was about to learn that lesson the hard way. High above the bridge in the Coalition flagship, Admiral Dalthex of the Kethmori adjusted his crystalline form on the command throne, savoring his moment of triumph. His body glowed with satisfaction as he watched the pathetic human vessel sitting helplessly in the center of his perfect trap. 3,000 years of military experience had taught him that overwhelming force was the key to quick victory. Primitive. "Creatures," he murmured to his second-in-command, "a massive Zultaran named Vorgath. They responded exactly as our behavioral analysts predicted. Their weakness for helping others will be their extinction." But 12 decks below on the Defiance, Engineering Chief Ji-Hoon Nam was thinking 3 moves ahead of everyone else in the nebula. The moment his sensors had detected those strange energy readings hours ago, alarm bells had started ringing in his head. 20 years of military engineering had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now those instincts were screaming. While Admiral Dalthex was busy gloating, Ji-Hoon had quietly activated Protocol 7. Protocol 7 officially didn't exist. It wasn't in any manual or training program. Only a handful of people in the entire colonial fleet even knew about it. Ji-Hoon had helped design it after the Proxima incident, when pirates had used similar tactics to ambush 3 merchant vessels. "Sang-Ho," he whispered to his assistant, making sure his voice didn't carry beyond their station. "I need you to quietly reroute auxiliary power through the mining laser array. Don't make it obvious." Assistant Engineer Sang-Ho Lim nodded without asking questions. He'd worked with Ji-Hoon for 5 years and had learned to trust the chief's crazy ideas. His fingers danced across the engineering console, making small adjustments that looked like routine maintenance, but were actually preparing the ship's industrial mining equipment for something it was never designed to do. "Yoonji," Ji-Hoon continued, turning to communications specialist Yoonji Cho. "I need you to mirror the alien communications array frequency, but make it look like we're trying to send a desperate message to Earth asking for help." Yoonji's eyes widened as she understood what he was really asking. While the aliens would think they were monitoring panicked human communications, she would actually be infiltrating their network to gather intelligence. On the bridge, Weapons Officer Young-Soo Kang caught Ji-Hoon's subtle hand signal through the internal camera system. A former Special Forces operative, Young-Soo understood military deception better than most. While the aliens watched their desperate attempts to call for backup, he began using the communication attempts as cover to actively scan every ship. In the Coalition fleet, getting detailed energy signatures on all 67 vessels, he reported quietly to Commander Hyun-woo. Their power distribution is interesting, very organized, almost too organized. Dr. Haewon Park, the ship's artificial intelligence specialist, was hunched over her computer terminal in the science section, her fingers flying across holographic displays as she analyzed the data young Sue was feeding her. What she discovered made her heart race with excitement and terror. "Commander," she called softly, making sure only the senior officers could hear her over the bridge's ambient noise. "I need to show you something important." Hyun-woo approached her station, trying to look casual while the alien fleet continued to tighten their formation around the Defiance. "What have you found, Doctor?" "Their ships are all networked together," Haewon explained, pointing to the patterns flowing across her screen. "Look at these data streams. Every vessel in their fleet is connected to a single central command system. It's incredibly efficient for coordination." She paused, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "But, Commander, it's also the biggest tactical mistake they could have made. One central intelligence controlling everything means one single point of failure. If we can access that network..." The implications hit Hyun-woo immediately. His expression didn't change, but inside he felt the first spark of hope since dropping out of hyperspace. Captain Bo-Ram Choi had been listening from her position at the tactical station. She'd fought in enough battles to recognize an opportunity when she saw one. "Sir, if their ships are networked, that means they're all vulnerable to the same attack." Young Soo Kang looked up from his weapons console. "I'm reading massive data transfers between their vessels. Whatever they're planning, they're coordinating it through that central system Dr. Park found." On the Coalition flagship, Admiral Dalthex was growing impatient. The humans were taking too long to surrender, and he wanted this matter finished quickly. "Open communications," he commanded. "Time to end this charade." But down in engineering, Ji-Hoon Nam had just finished his preparations. The mining lasers were ready, modified with focusing crystals that would turn industrial cutting tools into weapons capable of penetrating alien shields. More importantly, Yunji had successfully tapped into the Coalition communication network without them knowing. "I'm in their system," she reported quietly. "They're using some kind of quantum entanglement communication grid. Very sophisticated, but I can ride their own signals back to the source." Dr. Haewon Park smiled for the first time since entering the nebula. "Perfect. I can create a feedback loop through their network, turn their own technology against them." Commander Hyun-woo looked around at his crew. These brave souls who'd volunteered to serve in the depths of space, far from home and family. They'd walked into a trap designed by creatures with thousands of years of military experience. But the aliens had made one crucial error. They'd underestimated human ingenuity. "You know what your problem is," Hyun-woo said quietly to his senior staff. "You think like prey, but humans aren't prey animals. We're apex predators, and we've been getting out of impossible situations since we lived in caves." The Coalition had set their perfect trap, but they were about to learn an important lesson about Earth's children. When you corner a human, you don't get surrender. You get innovation. Admiral Dalthex leaned forward on his crystalline throne, his body pulsing with anticipation as he prepared to deliver the final ultimatum to the trapped humans. Around him, his bridge crew of various Coalition species monitored their perfect formation. 67 ships arranged in mathematical precision, each one locked onto the pathetic human vessel in the center. "Open a channel to the human ship," he commanded his communications officer, a swift Velnash whose 4 arms danced across multiple control panels simultaneously. It's time to end this embarrassment. But as the communication array activated, something unexpected happened. The human ship's surrender transmission began broadcasting on all frequencies, flooding the Coalition network with what appeared to be desperate pleas for mercy. "Please don't destroy us," came the human voice, crackling with static. "We surrender completely. We're uploading all our tactical data as a gesture of good faith." Dalthex smiled with satisfaction as data streams began flowing from the human vessel into the Coalition network. How typical of these primitive creatures to give up their military secrets in a futile attempt to save their lives. He had no idea. He was watching the most sophisticated cyber attack in galactic history unfold in real time. Down on the Defiance, Commander Hyun-woo watched the countdown timer on his command screen reach 0. Ji-hoon's modifications were complete. Haewon's virus was spreading through the alien network like wildfire. Young-soo's weapons were locked onto their primary targets. Now, Hyun-woo commanded. The Defiance unleashed hell, but not the kind the aliens expected. What should have been mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids had been transformed into something entirely different. Ji-hoon Nam's engineering team had worked a miracle in 30 minutes, using focusing crystals salvaged from the ship's sensor array to create coherent energy beams that could punch through shields designed to stop conventional weapons. The first blast caught Admiral Dalthex's flagship completely off guard. The mining laser, modified with harmonic frequency adjustments, found the exact resonance point of the Coalition's energy shields and slipped through like a sword through silk. The beam carved a molten line across the massive vessel's hull, severing power conduits and weapon systems. Impossible, Dalthex shrieked as his ship's lights flickered and emergency alarms began wailing. Their weapons can't penetrate our defenses. But that was only the beginning. Dr. Haewon Park's masterpiece was already spreading through the Coalition network like a digital plague. Disguised as surrender data, her virus had infected the central command system that controlled all 67 ships. Within seconds, the carefully orchestrated alien formation began to fall apart. On the Kethmori cruiser, Eternal Light, Captain Morges watched in horror as his targeting system suddenly identified the ship next to him as a hostile threat. "What's happening?" he demanded, as his weapons automatically swiveled toward his own allies. The same chaos was erupting throughout the Coalition fleet. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for hours suddenly saw enemies everywhere they looked. Targeting computers that had worked flawlessly for centuries now painted friendly vessels as priority threats. The Zultaran dreadnought, Void Crusher, opened fire on 3 of its own escort ships before its captain could override the corrupted systems. Massive energy cannons designed to destroy planets tore through Coalition hulls like paper, sending debris and atmosphere streaming into the nebula's swirling gases. "All ships, hold your fire," Dalthex screamed into his communications array, but his own flagship was already bringing its main guns to bear on the vessels around it. "Override your targeting systems." Too late. The virus had propagated too far, too fast. Dr. Haewon had designed it to learn and adapt, using the Coalition's own network protocols against them. Every attempt to shut down one infected system only spread the corruption to 2 more. On the Velnash fighter squadrons, pilots found their life support systems failing as environmental controls went haywire. Ships that had maintained perfect atmospheric conditions for their crews suddenly vented oxygen into space or flooded cockpits with toxic gases. "Mayday! Mayday!" came frantic transmissions from dozens of Coalition vessels. "Life support failure. On decks 7 through 12, we're losing atmosphere." Lieutenant Soo-jin Kim, now at the communications station, was recording everything. Every tactical frequency, every emergency transmission, every piece of technical data about Coalition ships and weapons. But more importantly, she was broadcasting it all back to Earth on a tight beam transmission that the aliens couldn't detect through the chaos of their own network failures. "Command, this is Lieutenant Kim aboard the Defiance," she transmitted on the emergency frequency that connected directly to fleet headquarters on Mars. "We are engaged with a hostile alien fleet of 67 vessels in the Arcturus Nebula. I am transmitting complete tactical data on their technology, weapons, and defensive capabilities. Recommend immediate fleet mobilization to this location." The data stream continued for several minutes, uploading detailed scans of every Coalition ship, their energy signatures, their network vulnerabilities, and most importantly, proof that humanity was under attack by a coordinated alien alliance. Young-soo Kang kept firing the modified mining lasers, each shot carefully aimed at the most critical systems on the largest Coalition vessels. Without their network coordination, the alien ships were sitting targets, unable to coordinate their overwhelming firepower advantage. "Their command ship is trying to restore network control," Hay1 reported from her station. But every time they patch one vulnerability, my virus opens 3 more. Their system is too complex, too interconnected. They can't isolate the infection without shutting down everything. Commander Hyunwoo watched the tactical display as the perfect alien formation dissolved into chaos. Ships firing on their own allies, life support failures spreading through the fleet, emergency transmissions flooding all frequencies as coalition. Crews struggled to regain control of their own vessels. The trap was becoming a tomb, and the architects were trapped inside it with their intended victims, Admiral Dalthex. His crystalline form, now flickering with rage and panic, finally understood what was happening. These weren't the primitive creatures he'd expected to capture. These were apex predators who had turned his perfect trap into their hunting ground. The humans had done the impossible. They'd turned the Coalition's greatest strength into their greatest weakness. 3 hours after the chaos began, Admiral Dalthex sat in the ruins of his once magnificent flagship, watching his perfect trap crumble around him. Half his fleet was destroyed, victims of their own weapons turned against them by the human virus. The other half drifted powerless in space, their crews struggling to restore basic life support. The crystalline being's body had lost its earlier glow of confidence, now flickering weakly as he contemplated the impossible situation. In 3,000 years of military service, he had never seen anything like what these humans had accomplished. "Sir," his communications officer reported with 4 trembling arms, "long-range sensors are detecting hyperspace signatures approaching our position. Multiple contacts moving fast." Dalthex felt his crystal heart sink. The humans had called for backup. At the edge of the Arcturus Nebula, space itself began to ripple and tear as massive shapes emerged from hyperspace. Earth's third fleet materialized, in perfect formation. But these weren't the same ships that had left Sol System days earlier. Admiral Chan Wu-Yu stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Sol's Pride, studying the tactical display with satisfaction. His fleet of 42 vessels had made the journey to the nebula in record time, but more importantly, they'd spent every minute of that journey preparing for war. "Look at that beautiful sight," he murmured to his tactical officer. The human ships gleamed with new modifications, their hulls bristling with weapons adapted from the Coalition technology that Lieutenant Soo-Jin Kim had transmitted back to Earth. Human engineers had worked around the clock, analyzing every piece of alien tech data and incorporating the best elements into their own designs. Shield harmonics that could slip through Coalition defenses, targeting systems that could track Velnash fighters despite their incredible speed. Energy weapons based on Kethmori crystal technology. "Open a channel to the Coalition flagship," Admiral Yu commanded. The transmission reached Dalthex's crippled vessel, and the alien admiral found himself staring at a human face that showed no mercy, no hesitation, only cold determination. "Admiral Dalthex," came the transmission in perfect Kethmori crystal speech. "This is Admiral Chan Wu-Yu of the Terran Defense Force. I believe you've met one of our exploration vessels. You have 30 seconds to power down all weapons and prepare to surrender before we demonstrate what humans do to species that threaten our people." Dalthex's response was immediate and desperate. Despite his fleet's crippled condition, despite the overwhelming odds, despite knowing it was hopeless, he ordered his remaining functional ships to open fire. It was the last mistake he would ever make. The Coalition had prepared for this battle for months, studying human tactics and technology. But the humans had prepared for it in 3 hours, and that made all the difference. Earth's third fleet moved like a pack of wolves descending on wounded prey. The lead destroyers Sol's Sword and Busan's Thunder launched modified torpedoes. That phased through Coalition shields as if they weren't there. The cruisers Incheon's Might and Daejeon's Fury fired energy beams that adapted their frequency in real time, finding and exploiting every weakness in alien defenses. Admiral Yu's flagship unleashed its main guns, massive particle cannons that had been enhanced with crystalline focusing arrays reverse-engineered from captured Kethmori technology. The beams struck Dalthex's ship with devastating precision, carving through its hull like a hot knife through butter. "Target the command." "Sections," Yu ordered calmly. "I want their leadership intact for questioning." Within minutes it was over. The few coalition ships that hadn't been destroyed by their own corrupted systems were now floating wrecks, their crews evacuating in whatever escape pod still functioned. Back on the Defiance, Commander Hyun-woo watched the rescue operations with mixed emotions. Human Marines were boarding the alien vessels, securing prisoners, and gathering intelligence. Medical teams were treating wounded coalition survivors, because that's what humans did, even to enemies who had tried to murder them. Dr. Min-ho Lee approached with his final analysis, his tablet displaying comprehensive scans of the alien technology they'd captured. "Commander, the intelligence we've gathered will revolutionize everything. Their faster-than-light communications, their energy manipulation technology, their biological sciences. We've just leaped forward by centuries." He paused, looking out at the debris field where the most powerful fleet in this sector of the galaxy had once floated in perfect formation. "But more than that, sir. Word of this will spread throughout the galaxy. Every species out there will know what happens when you back humans into a corner." Lieutenant Soo-Jin Kim looked up from her communication station. "Sir, I'm intercepting transmissions on multiple alien frequencies. News of the battle is already spreading. The Altarian Republic, the Centauri Confederation, the Rigel Trade Union, they're all talking about what happened here." Young Su, Kang, still at his weapons station, allowed himself a grim smile. "Let them talk. Maybe next time someone thinks about setting a trap for humanity, they'll remember what happened to the Coalition." Captain Boram Choi stood beside her commander, watching as the last Coalition life pods were tracked aboard human rescue ships. "Sir, what do we do now? The galaxy knows we're not as helpless as they thought." Hyun-woo nodded slowly, thinking of an old Earth saying his grandfather had taught him years ago. "If you're going to dig a grave, make sure it's not your own." The Veltharan Coalition had spent months planning the perfect trap, using humanity's compassion against them. They'd expected to capture one human ship and send a message to Earth about staying in their assigned corner of the galaxy. Instead, they'd given humanity detailed intelligence on 4 advanced alien species, proven that human ingenuity could overcome any technological disadvantage, and demonstrated to the entire galaxy that Earth's children were not prey animals to be hunted. Admiral Dalthex, now a prisoner aboard the Soul's Pride, would spend the rest of his very long life wondering how creatures who had only been in space for 2 centuries had so completely outmaneuvered species with millennia of experience. The answer was simple, though he would never understand it. Humans didn't just adapt to challenges, they transformed challenges into opportunities, and in the depths of space that made them the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. Find a key.